So any questions, Doctor? Anyone? Any questions, please? Yes, ma'am?
Have any of these scholars looked at the research on the DNA, the concept of DNA spread, so we trace all of us back to Africa?
Yes, ma'am.
And we had one that went that way. And do we see that substantiating the DNA trends from Africa to some of the indigenous peoples of South Africa? In other words, we're using this latest science to again reinforce our analysis, the analysis they're talking about in this historic record.
Yes, ma'am. Dr. Check Anthony Diop, along with Ivan Van Sertima. If you put that in your Google, if you Google that, you will find a lot of information with the DNA and how Africans spread it out from Africa and went to all parts of the world. I mean, actually, you think about it even right now. I look at it like this, and I was talking to Miss Barb earlier. Our concept of what we're dealing with today is almost like, if we say Adam and Eve were black, if we're going to agree to that, if we're going to agree to the science, and the science is not lied because they have tried for hundreds of years to deny what's true. So if we say that Adam and Eve is black, and I kind of look at our white brothers and sisters in a lot of different ethnic groups to some degree, that they have become disrespectful children. Like they are angry at their parents for whatever reason. Because if we all agree that all people come from Africa, and then we see the behavior that we see today, race is based on power and resources. I'm going to control the power, I'm going to control the resources, and the construct of the European, again, when you think about that twist in thinking, to say that for whatever reason, because when Europeans came into Africa, the Africans were open. Their mindset you think about it. In no African culture, they didn't think of themselves as tribes. That's a European concept too. They thought of themselves as nations and as family and as people, from the Igbo, the Kawana, the Kikuyu, thousands of different tribes and languages. But what connected them all is some type of spiritual connection about honoring the land, honoring the trees, honoring the water, honoring the air. The things they did when they went to make a drum, they would go to the tree, they would pray to the tree, tell the tree what it's going to become. Then plant a seedling to replace the tree. They didn't go around killing animals and putting them up on the wall. Most Africans are like elephants, vegetarians. I mean, you think about it, an elephant does not eat any meat. So when you think about how we all have been lied to, and again, power, when you have power, you can write, you can change history, you can usurp it, you can lie because you have the power. If you don't believe what I say, I will kill your children's children's children. And you hear that today, and some people saying about attacking ISIS and anybody else, they're saying, well, I'm going to destroy everyone. You see, you hear that mindset even in our culture today. And again, it's all rooted in, if we agree, first people, Adam and Eve, if we're going to accept that concept, if our white brothers and sisters can accept it, they are descendants of us. I know that's hard to swallow sometimes, but I think that's how we can start having an honest conversation about having some equality. Because it's all based on how we can be treated equally and fairly. There are 62 people in this world that has more wealth than 3.6 billion people. 62 people have more wealth than 3.6 billion people. That has never happened in the history of mankind. That has never happened. And again, we should be very concerned about what's going forward, how we can educate our family members, and how we can do some things in our jobs, in our businesses, in our families, to kind of reach back and reach to other people and bring people in. I think it's very important for us to really, really, really work on our white brothers and sisters. I think we all are suffering from a great deal of, Dr. Naim Mawar said we're suffering from an illusion of inclusion. And many times we are definitely in an illusion as far as the construct of capitalism. Capitalism was never designed for the masses. It's always been designed for the few. And that's what history continues to teach us. And the whole concept, even with the Bible, y'all, the Bible is really, to some degree, an instructional book to say this behavior happened. Now you can choose to, don't act like David. You know, why don't we do a little something different than Solomon? Why don't we embrace the concept of the young men that was in the furnace? I mean, if we take some of those lessons in the Bible, I mean, I think we can be more humane towards each other. I'm sorry to go on, but I was hoping that helped you with the DNA. Any other questions, Doctor? Wow, that's deep. Dr. Jerry?
You ever talk to a group of black people?
I've been lucky. Yes, ma'am. I've been fortunate to talk out in Fenton. I was able to talk to a group in Goodrich, and I think my approach was a little bit crass because I first said, as I said earlier, I said, what did I say, guys? What did I say? What did I say? What did I say, honey? I said, all people come from black people. That's what I said. You should have saw the face. You should have saw that face, man. They was like, but I cleaned it up a little bit. And one thing that I find interesting is that we live in a society that I'm working with some pastors and some people, and a lot of times I do a lot of protesting in the community, and I wear different types of shirts to articulate some of the discontent that we're having in our country. And it's amazing that I have been told that I need to tone down my blackness. I need to speak in a dialect that is not offensive, you know. So I was studying Huey Newton. I was studying Huey Newton's papers, and even though with them going to college and them understanding, getting into the politics of how you can unify people, and what you have to learn, because when people have low information, and like with Fox News or Rush Limbaugh and all of, when you have people that have low information and don't understand the history, you do have to be conscious of how you can bring people in, because the concept is not to push them away. A lot of times I'm finding now that I'm listening to my ancestors, I'm listening to my older people to kind of bridge the gap so there can be a dialogue so we don't push people away. And so as I went on, as I got into talking to the group of basically white people, I was able to tell some stories and some concepts. Because after I got through, people came up and, oh, you did a good job, and man, give me some more information. I always bring information with me, because so often people have no clue of the Colfax Massacre, Tulsa, Oklahoma, have no clue of Henrietta Lacks, have no clue of Robert Small, have no clue of Denmark Vassar, have no clue of what people have done and what people have created, no clue. And when I share information, and again, it's important to be factual, because you don't have to lie, you don't have to pretend. People have a hard time accepting the truth because so often we've been told a lie. But once you can get them one-on-one and they're really interested and concerned, right now, when I was in high school, I met a young man at Northwood Institute. And we was there on a track. We was there for a track meet. And the parents had brought down this young man from northern Michigan to be a part of this track meet. So we all had to room together in the dorm about the parents didn't want them to room with the blah, 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 but anyway, the track coach said. So make a long story short, we taking a shower. So the white guy was looking at us, you know, like, look, and he thought we had tickets. Even to this day, that young white guy, his name was David Allen, he and I have still been friends all that time. I haven't seen him in about 5 years. But we had developed a friendship because he had no clue. He said the only black person he saw was JJ on that show, whatever that show was. Up north, he had never seen in person, and all he knew was what he saw and his grandparents were racist, and they had told him a lot of things, you know, about us. But we were able, because we were in a close environment, but we were able to talk to him, and it did touch his life, it did impact his life, and again, I'd say we became friends. Because he was able to share with me some of his culture and some of his upbringing, and I was open to that. Okay, guys.
I'd like to know, when you went into those groups of whites and, you know, out in the burbs, wherever, and you took that original approach, and you saw what the response was of that approach, have you actually came up with a way to include them before actually speaking, and more or less like saying, well, okay, if civilization began in Africa, just period, and instead of creating a separate entity right there in the room, because it is separate already and everybody knows that based on color, instead of putting it out there like that, letting it kind of take its shape, where they can begin to understand how that actually happened, opposed to going in and saying, well, okay, you're white, you're black, that approach, because that approach was kind of harsh. So then how would you go back in? Because I think it would make more sense to be able to go back in and to begin to maneuver into, or have community conversations, if you will, in neighborhoods where it's not offensive like that, and then you begin to actually get some feedback and get some evaluations back on how you actually presented that. Because if I was just a person like you come into a room and I got this guy telling me, you know, white, black, I would kind of panic at that and you out in the birds. But if you say, well, okay, if we all agree that civilization began in Africa, then begin to let history begin to take its course.
Let history teach. And the whole concept, you're right, let history do its job. Let history teach. And that's something I've learned. I've learned to modify some things to the different crowds that I'm dealing with. And that has been a teaching lesson for me. I have gotten some good advice from, I spent a lot of time with Tim Weiss. He shared some things with me. And again, I just think that it's so important. This whole concept that we're doing with Tendaji Talks is like we want to have community dialogue. This is the spirit that we want to develop. We are wanting to get more white people involved, because again, to deconstruct the institution that has been built, white people have to deconstruct it. They have to be willing to be fair and be equal.
But they have to be able to do it. But again, they have to understand it too. I'm sure you have lots and lots of white people that don't even understand the construct that was constructed. Are you with me? Because they were taught too by some of the same books.
Well, white people are clear about privilege. There's no denying it.
I'm not gonna say that. I'm not gonna say that they're not, feel like they're privileged because of color. I'm not gonna say that, because they are. But we're talking about color versus knowledge. That's what we're talking about. Color versus knowledge.
And that's the job, is to get the knowledge out and to diffuse and try to embrace the beauty. Like some people say something to me, and I'm in environments in the suburbs, and they say, well, I don't look at color. And a lot of times I say, yes, I want you to look at my beautiful brownness. Please. Please look at my color. Please accept my color. Please embrace it. Don't be ashamed of it. And I think that's important. I think that's the first step to help our white brothers and sisters to understand it's okay to accept my color. Don't say I don't see color, because we do see color in our society. And the color is beautiful. You had a question, man? I know we got to go.
I was just going to ask you, when you talked about white people being a part of the process, and I'd like to know what would make them do that? I mean, what impetus do they have to concede into that?
Okay, we are hoping to touch their hearts,
Okay.
because no law can do it. There's no law can do it. We're just hoping to ask our ancestors, because the whole purpose of us being here today is because they were, and we hope in the spirit of our ancestors can help with that process to touch our white brothers and sisters. And we got to believe in that, because if not, we might as well all die.
I just wanted to say that when you're presenting to a group, period, maybe you need to start doing a sheet on where you got all your information from, so that if they wanted to look at where he's getting his information from, if they want to research it for themselves, if they want to acknowledge themselves or enlighten themselves, they can do the research and learn some things. If you share where you get your information from, then that would empower them.
Right.
Yeah.
And what I did,
Because they will research.
Yes.
on your table, there's a lot of information on your table. I made different packages, and there's a lot of information there.